On March 8, 1968, American hydrophones recorded 98 men dying 3 miles underwater. The K-129, a Soviet ballistic missile submarine carrying 3 nuclear warheads, had just imploded. The acoustic signature showed multiple compartments crushing inward in less than a second. A pressure differential of 2,400 pounds per square inch folded steel bulkheads like paper. The Soviets sent 30 ships and dragged sonar across 300,000 square miles of Pacific Ocean for 2 months. They found absolutely nothing, but the Navy's classified acoustic sensor network had secretly tracked it. Captain James Bradley stared at the recordings. This wasn't a submarine moving, it was a submarine dying. Bradley knew exactly where it happened, but knowing where wasn't the same as knowing what. Having the acoustic signature meant nothing without photographs of a wreck sitting at a depth that crushes human bodies in milliseconds. The highly classified USS Halibut arrived in July 1969. It carried a 5-ton camera sled called Fish, dragged along the ocean floor on a 5-mile steel cable. The crew played the world's most tedious video game for 70 days. Lower Fish, drag it for 16 hours, haul it up. Every photo showed barren mud and confused deep-sea creatures. Then, photo number 21,978 showed twisted metal. The K-129 hadn't just sunk, it had violently exploded, breaking into 3 sections across a half-mile of ocean floor. The photographs made CIA analysts jump from their chairs. 3 nuclear missiles sat completely intact. Codebooks and torpedoes were just waiting for a new owner. Navy experts called a retrieval impossible. You would need non-existent technology and astronomical funding, all in complete secrecy. CIA analyst Carl Duckett saw the warheads and disagreed. Spending $350 million could retrieve secrets capable of changing the Cold War. But that required stealing from the Soviet Union at a depth that defied physics. The CIA needed a ship the size of a city block with a massive hole through its center. CIA contractor Robert Mayhew offered an elegantly absurd solution. Tell the world billionaire Howard Hughes was mining the ocean. Hughes was currently injecting codeine in a Las Vegas hotel room, completely unaware he was becoming a global cover story. The cover story was brilliant because it hijacked a real industry. The ocean mining gold rush was just beginning. Companies were racing to harvest valuable manganese nodules. The CIA hired a real engineer to design fake mining equipment. CIA officers attended mining conferences disguised as businessmen. They grew beards and memorized terminology from flashcards. When a real mining expert aggressively grilled a CIA officer on processing chemistry, the panicked spy claimed it was proprietary information. That is standard corporate speak for having no idea what is going on. The cover story worked too well. Real mining companies, seeing Hughes invest in deep-sea mining, assumed there was a fortune to be made. They began spending millions of their own dollars to compete with a fake company that was actually just a front for a submarine heist. In 1970, Sun Shipbuilding received blueprints that made their engineers physically laugh. The Hughes Glomar Explorer was 618 feet long, with a 199-foot rectangular hole cut straight through its center. They called this massive void the Moon Pool. 2 sliding doors, each weighing 1,800 tons, covered the bottom. They had to withstand 550 tons of water pressure per square foot and slide smoothly in the rough Pacific Ocean. Engineers floated the doors on a thin film of oil, like a lethal air hockey table. Building a ship around a gaping hole ruined its hydrodynamics. Rough seas forced water up through the center like a giant toilet, constantly threatening to flood the vessel. The crew nicknamed it the ship that couldn't float. To keep it still, 4 computer-controlled thrusters, 4,000 horsepower each, had to hold the massive vessel within 50 feet of a fixed coordinate for 6 weeks straight. Asking a 1970s computer to do this was like demanding delicate brain surgery from a pocket calculator. Getting the 179-foot capture vehicle into that unstable moon pool required one more impossible maneuver. Lockheed's Skunk Works built Clementine. Picture a 179-foot mechanical spider with 8 60-foot arms. The grabbing claws alone weighed 400 tons. Its hydraulic system operated at 5,000 pounds per square inch. enough to slice through steel if a line ruptured. To secretly load this 2,000-ton claw, the CIA built a massive submersible barge. The procedure was madness. Float Clementine inside the barge. Sink the entire structure 160 feet underwater, float it directly under the Glomar Explorer, open the moon pool doors, and raise the spider claw inside. Divers worked in complete darkness, threading a 2,000-ton needle through a moving hole. One diver later said he couldn't see his own hand in front of his face. He navigated by touch, feeling for bolts that had to be hand-tightened 3 miles above the target. But Clementine was just the claw. They still had to build a 3-mile mechanical arm to lift 2,000 dead tons without any prior testing at depth. Arriving at the wreck in July 1974, the crew began the most expensive fishing expedition in history. They connected 274 sections of steel pipe. Fully assembled, the string weighed 5,000 tons, heavier than the Eiffel Tower. Clementine hit the bottom and sat directly over the lost submarine's missile bay. 8 massive steel fingers slowly wrapped around the radioactive corpse. Then came the brutal lift, 6 feet per minute. Everything worked perfectly for 3 days. A Soviet tug circled 38 times, watching the Americans mine one very large rock incredibly slowly. At 8,000 feet of depth, the rig weight suddenly dropped by 1,300 tons. Someone in the control room spoke the words no one wanted to hear. "We've lost part of the target." Clementine's steel arms had crushed through the corroded hull like wet cardboard. 2/3 of the submarine, including all nuclear missiles, plummeted back to the ocean floor. $500 million in Soviet secrets disappeared at 200 miles per hour. They were now hauling just 38 feet of severed submarine, 6 dead bodies, and 14 million gallons of highly radioactive water. What came up was not a prize. It was a crime scene. Near freezing water had preserved 6 dead Soviet sailors tangled in twisted metal. 2 unstable nuclear torpedoes lay in the debris, coating everything in toxic plutonium dust. The recovery crew worked in paper-thin suits while massive ocean waves rolled the ship. They slowly pumped the equivalent of 21 Olympic swimming pools worth of radioactive liquid out through the moon pool. The CIA buried the 6 sailors at sea with full Soviet military honors, performing the ceremony in both Russian and English. Viktor Lokhov's Communist Party card was still in his pocket when they found him. They filmed all 70 minutes of the ceremony, creating future-proof evidence of their respect. That tape went straight into a vault, waiting for a diplomatic moment that never came. Meanwhile, burglars accidentally broke into Howard Hughes's headquarters and stole files describing the salvage operation. The CIA panicked. Director William Colby personally begged reporters not to publish, hoping to go back for the rest of the submarine. But columnist Jack Anderson smelled blood. His headline exposed the greatest secret of the Cold War. The furious Soviet ambassador threw the newspaper onto Henry Kissinger's desk and demanded an explanation. Reporters asked the CIA to confirm or deny the massive operation. The agency stated they could neither confirm nor deny the existence of the information requested. This non-answer became forever known as the Glomar response. Government agencies now constantly use language invented entirely because a giant metal claw couldn't hold onto a submarine. The $4.4 billion operation recovered 38 feet of submarine. The brutal engineering lesson remains. You cannot solve every problem with unlimited money. Sometimes the rusted submarine breaks, the ocean wins, and the most expensive sentence in the English language becomes a refusal to confirm or deny.